This is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords. And I'm coming to you from my kitchen, where, as you can see here, I've laid out, to one side we see my Lion and Dragon book, but then to the other side, we have some very interesting, courtesy of Thaddeus Moore, Thaddeus G. Moore at Gmail. He's been making these cool looking OSR patches. They're iron-on patches, I believe, that he decided to mail me a couple of them as a kind of a gift. And so, first of all, I'm thanking him for them and showing them off. I mean, look at how awesome this one is. And of course, this is the classic OSR patch with the kind of dungeon styling there. But you know, I don't really wear patches. I'm not that kind of guy. My clothing are all too fancy for the most part for for patches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay it forward by probably having some kind of a little contest and giving these away to a couple of people in the OSR fandom here in Uruguay. Uruguay has a really large population of gamers proportionately to such a small country, and especially considering it's not an English-speaking country and it's a third world country, and yet we're chock full of gamers. And I'm sure there's going to be some that will appreciate it, so I'll just figure out some way to get it to a couple of whom are worthy, which may or may not be people that actually game with me, because I've got about I don't know, right now I think about 16 or 17 players in my base, or 18. But there's I think there's probably like 300 more or less active gamers just in the capital here. Probably not that many more in the interior. Alright, but you know what? Today, I'm not going to touch on these subjects because, you know, that would seem like gaming, but it's not really, because gaming could be whatever you want it to be today. So I'm going to show you how to make some Vietnamese iced coffee here, which is the only reason that you would find me in the kitchen for the most part, aside from cooking soup or something. So what you do is you got your Vietnamese coffee maker here, and you put in about 3 scoops of a decent strong coffee, just like that. You shake it up a bit here. Alright, tap it a bit. Looks a bit light, so I'm going to put a bit more in. Now, why am I doing this? Well, you know, I was figuring D&D is trying desperately to become a lifestyle brand, right? And just like Marvel has been trying to become a lifestyle brand, right? The goal of these big companies is that they not be about fucking nerds anymore, that they be for women and children, LGBT folks, and black people, and people who identify as donkeys, and just about everybody except maybe white males. But especially not gamers. Maybe gamers who are some of those other things except white males, but even then they're not that keen. What they really want are non-gamers, non-comic book collectors. They want those people to spend their money and be interested, because those people won't care what a tiny remaining cadre of SJWs are doing, because they're not invested in the real thing. They're just invested in a brand, right? So you've got Marvel doing this cooking show here. That's it's called Eating the World, I believe, which is basically. So here you've got a glass full of some Greek-style sweet yogurt. You put this on top, and then I'm gonna pour a little bit of water onto it, and there we go. And now it's gonna. It just has to drip down a little, and then we put the hot water in after that. So, what I was saying is, these guys have been doing a show called Eating the Universe, I think that's what it's called, which is a Marvel show. It's a Marvel show like Luke Cage is a Marvel show, or like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a Marvel show, except that it's a cooking show. And it's got a bunch of, you know, diversity panelists on there. And these diversity panelists are, they're cooking. And occasionally, I guess, talking about the Submariner or something. You know, they'll show you how to make I don't know what, it probably wouldn't be something like a quiche. They'll show you how to make a quiche, and then they'll talk about how awesome it is that Thor was a woman, right? This sort of stuff. So that suddenly is Marvel. If you watch that, if you like learning about cooking from a bunch of half-emaciated nerds, SJW nerds rather, then I guess you're a fan of Marvel superheroes now. You don't have to actually have watched any of the TV shows or movies or anything except the cooking show. You are now part of that community, right? And so, like, why not do that with RPGs too? We've already got these YouTube soap operas that are doing that, and now we've seen Hasbro announce that what they want is for D&D to become an e-sport, right? Like, like online celebrity poker, or, I don't know, Guild Wars, World of Warcraft, I don't know which ones of those are e-sports today, but they've got them, you know what I mean. I only played Toon Blast. It's the only video game I play. I'm sorry. That's why I was never officially in Gamergate. They wouldn't let me in. I'm not a gamer. And right for them. I'm not part of the gamer community, the video gamer community. I can sympathize with some of their cause, but I'm not a video gamer. So why should I get to count myself as part of that community if I'm not one of them, right? So, like a guy who watches a YouTube video, if some guy comes across this YouTube video because he wants to learn how to make Vietnamese iced coffee, then does that make him suddenly part of the D&D community because he's seen my video? So here I am pouring. So you can see I filled the Vietnamese coffee maker with hot steaming water now, and we're going to watch it slowly dripping down into the glass there, while I continue to talk about esports. So D&D, by the way, this is my new. I'm still figuring out the kinks here of my new cell phone stand that I'm using for filming now, which was a gift thanks to, in a previous video I'd said, hey, if you want my videos to be less shaky, then please go right ahead and do a donation, and that way I'll get myself a stand. Well, that's what happened, and so I got myself a stand. So thank you very much. If you want to donate more, that's great. I want to thank anyone who's ever donated. I want to thank everybody who supports the Inappropriate Characters Patreon. And if you want me, for example, to make more shows a week, then by all means, support Inappropriate Characters, or send me, on my blog, you can find a PayPal button, I believe, and you can send a donation to help me make more shows per week. Now that commercial break is done, getting back to esports. So this is the thing. I don't know what D&D esports will look like. Do you? I have no idea how that would be feasible. But it shows that Hasbro, the executives of Hasbro, I think have no idea what real D&D is like, how D&D really works. If they think they can make it into an esport, then obviously they have no notion of it. And the people at Hasbro, the SJWs in charge now, have no interest in them knowing. They're like, yeah, oh, sure, esport, yeah, that's good, because that means that it won't be about these asshole gamers that we want to get rid of, very clearly. It'll be about, our SJW agenda on the ground, while you guys are doing your esport thing up there and making D&D into a brand where we have to do even less work to keep our jobs, right? If they somehow manage to make something like a D&D e-sport, I can be absolutely 100% sure it would look nothing like one of my campaigns. It would look nothing like Lion and Dragon. It would look nothing like Dark Albion. It would look nothing like The World of the Last Sun. It would look nothing like Arrows of Indra. It wouldn't look like anything I've ever run. It would probably look... You know how people always say, oh, well, D&D 3.5 is like a video game or something, it's not real or something, which is, I thought, was kind of a stupid thing to say, because you could, of course, run a full gamut of a campaign with 3.5, but even though it was by far not my favorite D&D edition, but they're gonna say, yeah, they're probably gonna make something that's actually gonna be like that. If they actually manage to make D&D into an e-sport. It's going to be if Critical Role and stuff like that is just really a soap opera masquerading as D&D, using a thin veneer of D&D, as the recent incident has shown that its audience are people who don't actually want to see people playing a game. They just want to see people living out an improv soap opera, and the game gets in the way of that for them when someone uncomfortably dies by accident because Mercer didn't mean to kill him. I think the esport version will probably look, I don't know, like American Gladiators or something. It'll have as much in common with my campaigns as, say, American Gladiators has with genuine Olympic wrestling, or something like that. It's like a completely different universe. It's got nothing to do with us. And those people are definitely not going to be part of my community. They're not. There is no community to be had with them. They're not part of my hobby. They're not doing my hobby. They're doing something else. They're doing some kind of, competitive online wargaming or something, maybe. Or worse still, some kind of a pantomime, like just a fake game show or something like that, because I really just can't see how they think this is going to come about. But it just shows you more and more what the real agenda is here. The agenda of the big companies that now own most geek culture major brands, stuff like Marvel that is now owned by Disney, and Wizards of the Coast now owned by Hasbro. The big companies just want to make profit, and they know in this day and age the way to make profit is by branding something, on a multi-tiered level, not as what it originally was, like the humble pastime of whatever, of reading comics, of playing Dungeons and Dragons, but as this multifaceted lifestyle that people can take on, and they don't have to take on all parts of it, even like the original part of it, right? So like, if they do this to fishing, it'll be like, well, let's make fishing into a lifestyle, so you can go around with your fishing cap and your fishing jacket, and you can watch fishing shows, and be part of a fishing community online. That community will probably be taken over by regressive leftists who will demand that fishing be made about become about identity politics. You'll then be kicked out of that fishing community probably, but some other guy who never actually fished a day in their life will now get to some person in the inner city. An obese lesbian from from downtown who has no interest in fishing but watches a cooking show related to the fishing channel is now part of the fishing community, and you're not, right? This is what it's coming to. This is what they're trying to direct things towards, because there's this unholy alliance that we see at all levels, from Google all the way down to tiny little Wizards of the Coast, between the regressive left and the corporate establishment, which is just, in some sense, horrifying, right? Because you'd think anybody who was on the left should be horrified by this, right? Anybody who was a real, genuine person on the left, and if you're the right kind of, to my point of view, the right kind of libertarian, or even the right kind of conservative, you should be very suspicious of corporations as a concept, right? If you're a really classical capitalist, corporations seem like a way to mess up that system, right? And you would distrust the corporate establishment, unless you're one of these like ridiculous, big money establishment Republicans or something like that, or an objectivist or something, but most people know that corporations are usually, by their very nature, it's not something you should blame them for. It's just the system is fucked up. They're in it for their own personal profit, and whatever is their biggest personal profit. But this means that they're also prone to, and the monopolization that they create means that they are prone to being subverted. And that's what's been happening at every level. But now, corporations run every detail of our lives, right? The public square is corporate owned. Everything we do, how we chat with each other, where we go to eat, how we get jobs, how we publish works, there's no separation now, right? All of those things I mentioned are being done with like 3 online companies, right? So it's the fact that we have this this unholy alliance of the combination of lifestyle branding, where the left is accepting the shallowing down of all of our culture in exchange for them being the ones in charge of it, them being the ones who, in the process of that lifestyle branding, get to destroy the things that were originally there. It's difficult to imagine how to frame that even in a historical context. And I think we just have to keep figuring out ways to oppose it. I think the backlash is coming. We are standing out, and it starts with making fun of them. It starts with pointing out the gross things they're doing. And then at first they'll try to tear you down and deride you and all of that. But the more people are doing it, the more that this will come to a public attention, and the harder it'll be for them to get away with it. So let's keep up the good fight. Anyways, be sure to subscribe, share this video, and if, like I said, if you want to support us, support Inappropriate Characters on Patreon. Oh, and check me out this weekend. I'm going to be the guest star on Geek Gab. So look that up on YouTube, check it out, and keep your eye open for the upcoming episode where I'm going to be there debating with people to the right of me about things like Appendix N, and chatting with those same people about the SJW influence on role-playing games. And that's it for today. Currently smoking Lorenzetti Half Volcano and Morning Drive.